And welcome back to the Destination Gettysburg podcast. I'm Rick Kennis, and we are joined today by two special guests from the Mansion House in Fairfield. That's just about 7 miles from Gettysburg. We've got George and Cindy Keeney. And how are you folks doing today?
Good,
Great.
thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. The Mansion House has been around for, a couple decades, I'd say, right? Maybe a couple centuries, rather.
Well, Mansion House, 1757. We purchased it in May of 2020, and it's a boutique inn with 6 overnight rooms, restaurant, farm-to-table restaurant with a full tavern.
What was your motivation for buying the inn?
Well, people think that with George being a chef for 40 years, maybe he'd always wanted to own his own restaurant, and actually it was always my dream, not George's. I knew what a great chef he was. I knew the education that he had, the background that he had, and knew it would be successful. He was always working for other people, and I kind of wanted him to work for me. So it was always a dream of mine. And actually, it was our son, Danny, who was the tipping point.
Okay.
Yeah, with because when Cindy, she spoke to me about that initially. I said, well, let's look into it. But then we looked into it more seriously and the cost and what was available and so on and so forth. And just, what was called, the Mansion House, what was called the Fairfield Inn for a couple decades, popped up. So we took a tour of it. But the tipping point as far as us deciding to, pull the trigger on it was having our son Dan involved. Dan is, extremely capable chef. The thing was with myself, I'm, still outwork most people in the kitchen, but after a while, you need to have a strong person to help pick up the slack there. And Dan, he's just been fantastic. He's our oldest son. He's, ordering, prep, the general operation. He's so good at the culture, a healthy culture in the kitchen. Sometimes it can be not the most pleasant place, but he's made it an extremely good place to work. And it's just he's been so strong, and we're just we're fortunate to have somebody that let alone somebody who you're related to the point where our wine dinner, which we do semi-annually, he's going to be doing the featured in the menu of Dan came up with for our November 1st wine dinner. So it's just fantastic to have him and his leadership and his tremendous culinary ability to be operating our kitchen with, in conjunction with me contributing, but he does a lot of the lead work there.
That's amazing. And how much did he pay you to say all that stuff?
No, zero.
Okay. You might say we don't know.
Yeah.
We'll cut that.
So, but yeah, he's just, like I say, we're fortunate. It's like, you don't always have those circumstances when dealing with family.
So we're very grateful to and proud of Dan for taking this journey with us. And as we mentioned, he's doing a phenomenal job, but kind of need to give a shout out to the other 2 kids as well. Mikey helped us when we first bought the inn with a lot of, the yard work and the physical labor, getting it up and running, and he's now one of our bartenders. So 1 or 2 nights a week, Mikey is doing a phenomenal job as a bartender at the inn. And our daughter Paige helped us write the website, get the website up and running, help with social media. She still is my wordsmith. If I'm writing something, I send it to her to edit and take a look at. So we've been very fortunate that the family-run business really has incorporated all 3 of our kids and is a true family-run business.
Yeah, we're going to work on indoctrinating our 3 young granddaughters, transition into restaurateurs.
Nice. Keep it going.
Yeah.
Well, there's outstanding work being done there. I've eaten there a number of times, pretty much anything seafood, rather. Surf and turf, whatever the case may be. It's amazing the things that are done there, and it's for a reason. It's not like you're getting things in bulk from Sam's Club or any other number of places. This is a true farm-to-table operation you have here. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, what goes into all that magic that happens on a regular basis that people get to taste?
Yeah, well, we're fortunate because being here in Adams County, we have access to so many, various, whether it's farms or cheesemakers or beer makers or wineries or you name it. It's incredible. We have 30 plus partners that we deal with, and it's just really nice because I think what happens is a lot of times you'll have people coming in and they've never had, they don't like Brussels sprouts, and they have our Brussels sprouts and they just like, oh, they're fabulous. Well, a lot of that comes out with the fact that we're getting things that are local or regional, and it just does make a big difference. And I say this kind of tongue in cheek when I say it to guests, but it's like our job as the chefs at Mansion House is you're getting such good quality product here locally. Our job basically is just don't screw it up. So just and let the food come forward. Sometimes people get a little carried away, and there's somehow they relate classical cuisine with like everything smothered in a sauce or buried in something, or you've got to have 17 different ingredients. It's like we want the food first, let the food speak for itself, and it's just fantastic that we have access. Initially it was difficult setting everything up, but now we got a rhythm with all of our our partners that we deal with, and it's just a wonderful opportunity for us. And it's like I say, to me sometimes it's beyond words, like what we have access to and what we're able to do with and offer to the public, which is highly unusual in a lot of restaurants. So.
Absolutely, and thanks for pointing out earlier, it's more than just soaking something in a sauce or this kind of thing. The presentation is always important, I'm sure. When I've been to the Mansion House, it's nice because you get that authenticity. You don't get the feeling that there's something being covered up by too much of one thing or the other. It's a nice distribution of what you're eating.
One of my favorite stories, we hadn't been open, I think it was within the first week. There was a gentleman having dinner that asked me, where do you get your garlic? And I said, well, let me check with the chef. And the next day, George drove 1 mile down the road and got fresh garlic from Chuck, and we now get his honey. He's a beekeeper as well. So, there's just so much good agriculture and good stuff out there. So,
yeah, when you think about those small things, that number of partners can grow.
Yeah.
You might come into it thinking that, oh yeah, we work with somebody for bread, or we work with somebody for, the apples that go in our pie and things like that. But you might not think too granularly about honey,
right.
And we have any number of, beekeepers in the area.
Yeah, right now we have 3 different suppliers of honey.
Wow.
And what's neat about it is that, like, just the nuance. Like you say, well, all these 3, the one honey's of a mile away, the other's 3 miles away, and the other's 10 miles away. And you say, well, they probably all taste the same. And it's just interesting because of how things are cross-pollinated, what's in the area with the bees and what's going on. You actually have these 3 different honeys that have distinct flavor differences, and it's just stuff like that. It just makes it nice. And the good thing about it is because Cindy knows I used to try specialty drinks at different places. We'd go to, down to the shore, go here, there, wherever. And I got to a point, it's like they sound so good when you read the descriptions. It's like, well, not so much. But like that little nuance, like it's like at our bar, we're a very solid basic bar, but we're big into purees. We're big into making our own simple syrups. If we're going to have a lavender simple syrup, we make it. Our sweet and sour mix is actually lemons and limes that we squeeze, So even it carries out into the restaurant and into the specialty drinks, and we're very, very fortunate with the talent we have at our bars and the imagination. And they're just that's the nice thing about our staff. I say this all the time. I said that our staff, they're all genuinely nice people, and they're people I like being around, because we've all worked with people who do a wonderful job, but maybe you don't want to hang out with them. Like, we're kind of blessed that way, that we have these types of people, whether front of the house, back of the house, that are housekeeping, et cetera, just fantastic people, and they convey what we're trying to convey about a welcoming hospitality experience.
It sounds like you encourage with your staff openness, like they're able to try different things with the bar and so forth, with the drinks. And
well, true. I call it my Sunday fun day.
It sounds like a fun day, yeah.
Because we get to sample and taste a few of our concoctions. But yeah, Zach definitely understands the nuances of being a bartender, and Janet loves to do trendy, where Zach's more classic, and it's just fun. But we do use fresh ingredients. We're making our mojitos now because the mint is in season, and we grow that there at the end. There are certain things that we do grow ourselves. Most of the products we can't grow enough of, but the herbs and the flowers and those things we do grow on site. So it's fun to go out the door, pick some mint, event and make some mojitos. So we do it seasonally and by the holidays to come up with something fun and delicious. So, yeah.
That's exciting. And it's more than just the restaurant, obviously. You welcome overnight guests as well. And then in turn, you can do tours for the overnight guests and so forth. What's that like to offer everything in this package that everybody can enjoy all together?
To me, this might sound silly, but I felt this way at 2 other operations I worked at prior. And this is nice because it's actually ours. But it's like it's not our home, but it's like inviting somebody into your home, And we're just so we're so tickled, and we love when people come there, and when whether it's they're coming in for dinner and they're walking out the door and they got a smile on their face and they're happy and they had a wonderful evening, or someone who spent a weekend with us or a couple days or whatever. It's just nice that when they come and they enjoy. And everything that goes into it, Cindy is just fantastic in reference to decorating. And the thing is, she does it, and this has been key to me, our whole relationship as a married couple, but when she would decorate at our house, or when she decorates at the end, it's done so tastefully. It's like you hired some extremely expensive interior decorator, but she does it within budgetary parameters. And so when people are walking through the rooms, it's just great to say, well, when Cindy did this and she did that, and she decided on this color and this wallpaper and this here. And what's nice about that, in addition, is besides having her taste there, is we have 5 different artists, local artists from Adams County, and their art's available, for sale if somebody chooses to. And we're very appreciative, the fact that they're kind enough to allow us to decorate our inn with their painting. So it's just such a nice combination there of the whole hospitality thing that we're focused on, and like we take it serious. I know everybody does take their business serious, but a little bit different with us is being owner operated. One of the circumstances that occurred, we had somebody who was there was guests were being a little loud. They texted me and let me know. We were doing the chef's table, which is one of the nice features we have. The chef's table's experience in the oldest portion of the house. And they were above it, and they'd asked, when is the party over? And I thought they meant the music we had playing that night, which ended. I said, well, the music ended at 8:30. And they said, well, there seems like the party's still going on. Then I realized their room was right above. And at that point, we had yet to insulate that door. So I went to the guests, and I thought, okay, how am I going to resolve this? And they were done with dinner, and they were just enjoying each other's company, as we hope they do, and laughing and having fun. And I said, hey, can I get you around the drinks? And if you would move there, and I explained what was going on. They go, oh, no, our pleasure. So they did, and I texted the guest, and she just was thankful. And the next morning, she apologized. Maybe she felt she might have overreacted a little or something. I said, no, not at all. But what I found interesting was when I looked at my cell phone, the text messages, from the time she contacted me with a concern to the time that concern was corrected was 7 minutes. And I say to Cindy, I say, I've never stayed in a hotel or an inn where I had the owner's cell phone.
Right.
So that's just that's maybe an extreme example, but it's just there's a big difference, and I think I saw that and picked up on that with Dennis and Eileen Hoover back when they owned the Cashtown Inn, and I was fortunate enough to be their chef. But the fact that owner-operated thing, it's different. You can have an innkeeper, and they may be just absolutely lovely and wonderful, kind people, but there's just something different when Cindy and I and Dan are involved, and we're very, very much hands-on. We're there every evening. We're there every day. We live right down the street. So it's just, when I saw the difference it made with Dennis and Eileen, I think we see a similar type of thing that Cindy and I do, and we have, and we love interacting with our guests. If you don't like people, it's a bad business to be in.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're fortunate in that way that we do both enjoy it. I think our guests can see the difference that it makes.
Thank you for sharing that story. It's that kind of feeling you expect when you visit Adams County, because it's so unique as opposed to any big city or metropolitan area.
You still have the historic feel, but then you have all the amenities, central air and central heat and conveniences. And we do have smart televisions. We don't do the cable thing, but we have a smart television if somebody so chooses. But, mini fridges in their suites and a Keurig machine in their suites. And so you have those conveniences, but you still have the feel, we've owned it. There's times I'll sit in one of the rooms and listen to some music or something. I just look around and go I can't believe I'm sitting in this. this atmosphere. When you sit in the chef's table room, it's 266 years old, and just to be a fly on the wall,
Right.
and think of what's come through there in all these years and what happened. Because they say, per the National Historical Registry, they had they had colonial meetings there once the original portion was built, the original part of the house in 1757, and you have, names like Patrick Henry, whose uncle and aunt built the inn. You have Charles Carroll, who sold them the property, and they're like two pretty heavy hitters
Right.
into our country's declaration and so forth. So it's just I sit back there sometimes and just think like, you know what, you could be back here. Forget about having a lovely 7-course meal. You could be eating like fast food here, and it would still be cool. So it's amazing.
It is amazing, and it's not built by a few investors, if you will. It is built by people from centuries ago.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you think about that, and it's kind of like whenever you're on the battlefield, standing by and just putting yourself in that mindset of what was going on at the time. Wow, what was going on in these walls so many years ago? It's amazing to think about. The events you have on a regular basis are pretty cool too. You were mentioning earlier the chef's table experience. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
What we do is, a guest get a hold of me, and I ask what what would they like to see, or what would they definitely not like to see. Some people, don't like this, don't like that, or are they allergies concerned? But everybody, whether it's 2 or 2 to 8 people in the room, it's a 7-course meal. You can do wine pairings with it. But I plan the menu with you, and we execute it, and everybody's receiving small plates of each item. And they're not the silly small plates where you get a single scallop. You're actually going to be full, and maybe need a to-go box or 2 when you leave. But, and it depends on the guest. Some guests, they just want to enjoy the food, and I'll obviously go out and interact with them a little bit. But other guests, they want to listen to the history, or they want to talk culinary. I've had guests where they said, "Can you sit down with us? If I have the time, I'll sit down and talk to them over with a beer, or a glass of wine." And whether it's the history, or they're talking about the culinary aspect of it, because it's like it's just a neat place to have that in, and it truly is like an experience. It's something that you don't get everywhere, and like with my training, and Dan is similar, with a classical background. So we want to do things. We don't want to do things that are dated, but we also want to do things, like I say, keep it food first. And some of the influences I've had, through reading, and whether, like I say, I've been fortunate enough. There's 55 or so master chefs, and I've either studied with or worked with about half of those chefs, about 24 of them. But then reading things like Alison Waters, like Shea Penny back in the 70s, and Jeannie Brazier, the first 6-star chef. She's a French chef, and her back in the in the 30s and 40s and 50s, and it's just all that influence that goes into these types of things, and but the cool historical experience as well, besides the culinary aspect of it. So
I can imagine throughout the year, it's not like a templated restaurant per se, where it's the same menu the whole year round. So some of those like seasonal food and specialty drinks, is it much of a challenge to change those out on a regular basis to the point where you're putting in something new, or putting in something that you bring about that time of year?
It's mostly the sauces that change and the soups that change. We always have a filet, we always have the crab cake. So it's more, I think, the mushrooms right now, mushroom soup and a mushroom casserole.
Right.
Okay.
And so it's more the
availability, I guess.
Yeah, when the fresh stuff is available. And we opened July 1st, and everyone was raving, "Oh, I don't like carrots, but these carrots are so good, and I don't eat Brussels sprouts, but these are delicious." And I thought, well, what are we going to do in January? How are we going to do farm to table in January? Well, I forgot about greenhouses and the hoop houses. So we're still getting fresh, mostly Twin Springs Fruit Farm is where we get most of our vegetables from. And 12 months out of year, we're still getting our fresh vegetables from them. So, that changes. But the meat's kind of always there.
The core stuff. Yeah. But I think part of it too is like we've gotten to a point, like in the 4 years we've had the inn and operated, is where our the contributions from our staff are big, but then just the fact that everybody we kind of got a rhythm to things, and like we know, hey, such and such is coming up. We want to change, and we want more of a spring theme going along with our specialty drinks or whatever is going on Valentine's Day. And it's nice because like we see not only us, but we see our staff getting exciting and contributing ideas, or like what Cindy was talking about with Janet. Janet's like more trendy stuff. Well, we did I think it was a Barbie martini.
Okay.
I didn't see the movie.
Was that recently? I remember.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
So we had that, and that sold like crazy, and people were just into it. But then, like I say, you have Zach, who's more like a classic, just a super solid bartender,
Right,
and Janet or Jen, when they come up with these different ideas that are a little more, I guess. Being at my age, I'm probably not the hippest dude.
Yeah.
But things that are a little more current, that go along with it in our drinks. So a lot of imagination. So it almost kind of takes a life of its own, Rick. It's I guess it's done enough, and everybody's kind of got an understanding of and it just goes. And the contributions help out a lot, as far as us with our staff, and they know that their contributions are more than welcome.
Yeah, I think earlier when you mentioned about Brussels sprouts, I don't eat them that often, but I did have them at the Mansion House, and they were very good.
Yeah.
Are there any other events that you do, whether it be annually speaking or if you have coming up in the near future, that you're especially fond of?
Well, we do live music every Thursday.
Okay, cool.
So last week we were out in the garden, and it was absolutely beautiful weather. So we do it every Thursday, weather permitting. We're outdoors, and when we first started that, we thought, gee, I hope we have enough local musicians for this every week. And we have so many talented local musicians. So there's just like, this bounty of agriculture, there's this huge bounty of musicians out there. We just started happy hour. So Wednesday through Saturday, we're opening 4:30 to 6.
Okay.
And the tavern only for the happy hour specials. And Dan and George came up with a great happy hour menu. So our meatballs are made with Stone Ridge Manor beef, which when you come into the inn parking lot, you'll see those cows in the next pasture. Those are Stone Ridge Manor cows. So we have fresh meatballs. We get mozzarella curds from Caputo Brothers in Spring Grove and pull our own fresh mozzarella.
Okay.
So Danny's making mozzarella sticks with that. Flatbread will change, if Danny has a smoked chicken to put on top. Right now, bruschetta's on top. Our French fries right now have smoked pork. Maybe they're going to have crab. So it's a fun, light menu, but it's still a farm-to-table menu for our happy hour. Yeah.
Other things too we have is cooking classes. We did some. We'll also do some in the winter time, and somewhere in the midsummer. So midsummer we'll do like 3 cooking classes where I'm teaching the class, you're coming in our kitchen, and we like that, and also wine appreciation. But we like it for a couple reasons. You're building relationships with your guests, and that's helpful. But one of the big things I like to do, and I'll do this with tours, take people into the kitchen. I want you to walk into the kitchen and see how clean it is. Folks are back there and they're like, "Wow, this is really." And I said, "Well, thank you. We take pride in that." But like I say, we're doing our semi-annual wine dinners. Every 4th of July, we've been fortunate to have the Second Maryland there.
Okay.
They did the I guess the way they call it, the field music in the movie Gettysburg. So to have them there, and actually Mike, the guy's in charge of it, they say, I think it's at the beginning of the movie Gettysburg, we have the drummer boy. Well, you pan to the drummer boy's face, then when you pan down, it's actually Mike's hands that's drumming.
Wow.
And if you look close enough, you can see that's not a little boy's hands. But I guess, in the moment, you're not really paying attention, but that's him drumming, whatever it is the younger boy could execute. So, Mike, who's kind of in charge of this group, so we get them every, around the 4th of July, we'll always have them come play and fife and drum corps, and it's just wonderful. It's usually out in the garden.
And we have Pippin Fest in Fairfield. Fairfield has Pippin Fest the last full weekend of September every year. And it was a previous owner of the Mansion House, Dave Thomas, that started Pippin Fest for the Pippin Apple. And the Pippin Apple came from England. Fairfield is named after Fairfield, England. So there's a big festival. And we have live music and are open for lunch that Saturday. It's the only day we're open for lunch.
Okay.
Is the Saturday of Pippin Fest. We have our Sunday brunch every Sunday from 11 to 3. But to be open for lunch that Saturday, and weather permitting, we'll be out in the garden and have live music on that Saturday.
Yeah. And another event that we got started this year, because we were kind of like with the whole transition from COVID, we tried to stay away from it just to make sure people are still good. So, but we're doing semi-annual wine dinners. Usually, one's going to be like we mentioned. Dan's doing the menu for November. But like this past spring, earlier, Russ Brannon, who worked with me at the Cashtown Inn, he was our guest chef, and it's his menu. He works with the staff. He's in charge of the kitchen, and it's great because it's obviously showcases Russell's skill, but then also his influence on my staff. Like Danny, and they build a relationship. And Russ gave Dan a book to study. And then prior to that, in November, Lee Corbett, who worked with me at Cashtown and Carroll Valley, also a local young man. His mother, most people know from the United Way. But he was just fantastic as well. And it's just good. It's good for them, I believe, to showcase their talent. But I think it's wonderful for my staff to get other views of things that George's or Dan's way is not the we're not, it's a way, we're not the end all, nor do we consider ourselves that, but just the exposure they get and the excitement of a chef coming in for the 2, 3, 4 days, and you're working on this menu, but you're not just. It's what's great is because Russ came in the one day and just messed around doing stuff with Dan. Like it had nothing to do with the wine dinner. The wine dinner was over. It was a Saturday. Russ came in and they just played. And it may sound silly to somebody if you're not in the culinary field to get excited about those kind of things, but they're just little nuanced stuff, little things that they're learning and so forth. And like I say, the fact that Russ, he sent a book to Dan. He goes, "I'm sending you this book. You got to read it." And so the other day, Danny came up with something. I wish I could remember what it was, but
was it the egg yolk?
Yeah, but when we were talking about that, I said, "Oh, where'd you come up with that?" He goes, "Oh, I read it from the book Russ sent." So it's just like I say, it's positive for, in my opinion. It's wonderful. The guests they get the byproduct. You're getting the number of courses and the wine and everything that goes along with all that. But just in the back, the excitement that it generates for our staff. It's fantastic because all the individuals I'm bringing in on wine dinners, we're bringing in, they're all someone that I worked with. I mean, Russ was my sous chef. He was 20.
Wow.
Now he's in his 40s. Lee started out as a dishwasher, and he's both just fantastic chefs today. And it's neat to see these young men at the time that where they were in their careers, and here they are later, and they're getting older, and they have kids, and et cetera, and so it's just fantastic to reconnect with them as on a personal level, as well as like I say, the professional level.
You're building relationships over time.
Oh yeah,
and that speaks volumes for the quote unquote product that comes out.
Even some of my cooks have called, reached out to Lee or reached out. It's just so they're establishing relationships there. So some people are like, "Are you okay with another chef coming to your kitchen?" I honestly, other than being around to help or to whatever communicate things, I try to stay away as much as possible so they feel you've got control of the kitchen. I'm there, but it's your baby. It's you do things as you see fit, and the guests are coming to try your food. In conjunction with our staff, they try our food on a regular enough basis. That's fine and dandy. But so now I like to let it rip and see where it all lands. And so far, they've just been, both dinners has been tremendous. So looking forward to Dan, or being our, even though he's not our guest chef, being him coming up with something that just a little bit different from what you normally see at Mansion House.
Well, there's a lot to be proud of in the 4 or so years. Is that how long you've owned it?
Yeah. Going on 4 years. And I do want to say, for these events, you can follow us on Facebook, and I know a lot of people don't have Facebook. We send out a quarterly newsletter.
Okay.
So if you visit our website, which is mansionhouse1757.com, you can sign up to receive a quarterly newsletter.
Okay.
And then you'll know when the cooking classes are, or when this wine dinner might be, and get updates on all the events.
But yeah, just generally speaking, this is one of those things where we're really proud to have, still to this day, this historic building that people can go into, they can tour, they can dine at, they can spend the night at, and enjoy Fairfield.
And can I just add, we changed the name back to the original name, which was Mansion House. And we did get, there were some locals who wondered why we were changing the name. And When you Googled the Fairfield Inn, you got the Fairfield Inn by Marriott, and it wasn't the original name. It was called Mansion House. So then that made it very easy to change the name back to the original historic name.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that the Hammets, when they bought it and really, reinvigorated it and put a lot of love into it, in the late 60s, changed it to the Fairfield
1970.
Okay.
Mrs. Hammett and Doc Hammett, they're Mary Lynn's mother and father, who has Hickory Bridge. They changed the name to Fairfield Inn at that time.
Okay.
And a wonderful connection there is their granddaughter, Kate. Kate worked with me for 4 years when I was at Carroll Valley Resort, which is now Ski Liberty. But to think now that we're own and run the inn, her grandparents ran for 7 years, and Kate, she went on to culinary school, and eventually she'll probably be one of our guest chefs as well. She's located in the Ohio area, but just a fantastic young lady, and just it's so neat to think that that we own a place that her parents grandparents had back in the day. So it's just a lot of neat local connections.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Rick.
Yeah,
we appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to the Destination Gettysburg podcast, produced and hosted by Rick Kennis, with thanks to our special guest. No part of this material may be reproduced without written permission. Get inspired for your visit to Adams County, Pennsylvania at destinationgettysburg.com.